What happens when Hollywood royalty meets actual royalty and neither one backs down? Tonight, we're diving into the most explosive late-night television moment that had security scrambling and producers pulling the plug. This is the untold story of how a simple interview turned into a career-defining showdown that left one of television's biggest names speechless and sent shockwaves through the entertainment industry. If you want to see how this unfolds, make sure to hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below, because this story gets more intense with every minute. The studio lights were blazing hot as Andy Cohen adjusted his signature blazer and glanced at his note cards one final time. The Watch What Happens live set was buzzing with its usual energy. Camera operators making last-minute adjustments while production assistants scurried between the shadows. Tonight's guest was supposed to be a ratings goldmine, someone whose very presence guaranteed viral moments and social media buzz for weeks. Meghan Markle swept onto the set with the confidence of someone who had commanded rooms filled with world leaders and celebrities alike. Her perfectly styled hair caught the studio lights as she settled into the plush white chair across from Andy's desk, crossing her legs with practiced elegance. The audience erupted in applause, but there was something electric in the air, a tension that even the most seasoned television veterans could feel building. Well, Andy began, with his trademark grin, leaning back in his chair as the applause died down. I have to say, when my producers told me you were coming on the show, I thought they were joking. I mean, we've had everyone from housewives to Alistairs, but actual royalty, that's a first. Meghan's smile was polished, media-trained perfection. Former royalty, Andy. Let's be precise about these things. Oh, I love the precision, Andy chuckled, already sensing an opportunity. Speaking of precision, I have to ask about some recent headlines. There's been quite a bit of chatter about your latest projects, your business ventures, your podcast deals. Some people are saying you're trying to monetize your royal connections. What do you say to those critics? The question hung in the air like a loaded weapon. Meghan's expression didn't change, but those who knew her well might have caught the slight tightening around her eyes, the barely perceptible shift in her posture. She'd been expecting this, of course, but Andy's delivery was more pointed than she'd anticipated. I find it fascinating, Andy, that when a woman leverages her experience and platform to build something meaningful, it's called monetizing. When men do the exact same thing, it's called business acumen. Her voice was measured, controlled, but there was steel underneath the silk. Andy raised his eyebrows, clearly delighted by the response. Ooh, I love it when guests come with receipts. But come on, you have to admit there's a difference between regular business ventures and, say, signing multi-million-dollar deals, specifically because of your title and connections to the royal family. And what exactly would you have me do, Andy? Meghan's tone was shifting now, becoming more direct. Should I pretend that my experiences don't exist? Should I apologize for the platform I have? Or should I use that platform to amplify voices and causes that matter? The studio audience was completely silent now, sensing they were witnessing something special unfold. Andy leaned forward, his showman instincts kicking into high gear. This was exactly the kind of television gold that made his show appointment viewing. I'm not saying you should apologize for anything, Andy replied, his voice taking on a more serious tone. But let's be real here. There are people who feel like you and Harry took the royal family's name, dragged it through some very public mud, and then capitalized on all that drama. That's gotta sting a little, right? Meghan's laugh was sharp, cutting through the studio like a blade. Dragged it through the mud? Is that what we're calling speaking our truth now? Is that what we're calling protecting our family and our mental health? Your truth, Andy repeated, emphasizing the words. See, that's interesting phrasing, because truth is usually just truth, right? It doesn't need qualifiers. The temperature in the room seemed to drop several degrees. Meghan uncrossed her legs and leaned forward, her media training temporarily forgotten as something more primal took over. Are you questioning my honesty, Andy? I'm questioning everyone's honesty, Andy shot back without missing a beat. That's literally my job. I ask the questions that other people are thinking but are too polite to ask, and right now, a lot. If people are thinking that this whole narrative about being victims of the royal family is pretty convenient when you're also trying to build a brand. Meghan's composure was beginning to crack, and everyone in the studio could feel it. Her Hands, which had been resting calmly in her lap, were now gripping the arms of her chair. Convenient. Her voice rose slightly, the carefully modulated tone giving way to something raw. You think it was convenient to have my mental health struggles broadcast across every tabloid in the world. You think it was convenient to have my family torn apart by lies and speculation. I think it's convenient now, Andy pressed, sensing blood in the water. I think it's very convenient to play the victim card when you're negotiating contracts and sitting down with Oprah and signing deals with streaming platforms. The accusation hit its mark. Meghan stood up abruptly, her chair rolling backward slightly from the force of the movement. The camera operators scrambled to adjust their angles, and somewhere in the control room, producers were probably having heart attacks. I didn't come here to be ambushed, Meghan said, her voice now fully unleashed from its media-trained constraints. I came here thinking we were going to have an actual conversation, not some tabloid-style character assassination. Andy remained seated, but his eyes were bright with excitement. This was television history in the making, and he knew it. Character assassination. Meghan, I'm asking you the same questions I ask everyone who sits in that chair. If you can't handle tough questions, maybe late-night television isn't the right platform for your comeback tour. The words hit like a physical blow. Meghan's face flushed, and for a moment, the polished exterior completely disappeared, revealing something fierce and uncompromising underneath. Comeback tour. She practically spat the words. I never left, Andy, while you've been sitting here playing games with celebrities and serving up softball questions to housewives. I've been out there doing real work, making real change, fighting real battles. The audience gasped audibly. Andy's smile widened, but there was something predatory about it now. Real work. Like what, exactly? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like a lot of photo ops and press releases, but not much substance. That was the moment everything changed. Meghan's eyes narrowed to slits, and when she spoke, her voice was low and dangerous. You want to talk about substance, Andy? Meghan's voice was quiet now, but it carried the weight of barely contained fury. Let's talk about substance. Let's talk about how you've built your entire career on stirring up drama between women, pitting them against each other for your entertainment. Let's talk about how you sit here night after night, acting like some kind of moral authority while you profit off other people's pain. The studio was dead silent. Andy's smile faltered for the first time since the interview began. This wasn't going according to his usual playbook, where guests might push back, but ultimately played along with his game. That's a pretty serious accusation, Andy said, trying to regain his footing. I think I provide a platform for people to tell their stories. Their stories. Meghan laughed, but there was no humor in it, or the stories you want them to tell. The stories that get you ratings, because let's be honest about what this show really is, Andy. It's not journalism. It's not even entertainment. It's exploitation dressed up in designer suits and fancy lighting. Andy's face was reddening now, his famous composure beginning to crack under Meghan's relentless assault. I think you're being unfair. My guests choose to come on this show. Nobody forces them. Nobody forces them. Meghan stepped closer to his desk, her presence now dominating the small set. Really? Because I'm pretty sure your producers made it very clear that if I didn't come on this show, there would be consequences for my other projects. Isn't that how this business works, Andy? You scratch my back, I scratch yours, and if I don't play ball, suddenly doors start closing. The accusation hung in the air like a toxic cloud. Andy shifted uncomfortably in his chair, and for the first time since the interview began, he looked genuinely rattled. I don't know what you're talking about, he said, but his voice lacked its usual conviction. Oh, I think you do, Meghan pressed, sensing weakness. I think you know exactly how this game is played. You bring people on this show when they're vulnerable, when they need the publicity, when they can't afford to say no. Then you tear them apart for your audience's entertainment. It's predatory, Andy, and we both know it. Andy stood up now, his height advantage restored. But Meghan didn't back down an inch. They were facing each other across his desk, like two gunfighters in an old western, the studio lights casting dramatic shadows across both their faces. You're way out of line, Andy said, his voice tight with anger. I've given you a platform to promote your projects, to tell your side of the story, and this is how you repay that courtesy. Courtesy. Meghan's voice rose again, all pretense of politeness abandoned. You call ambushing me with hostile questions courtesy. You call trying to tear down everything I've worked for courtesy. This isn't journalism, Andy. This is a hit. Job, and we both know who ordered it. The implication was clear, and Andy's face went white. Are you suggesting that someone paid me to attack you? Because that's not just false, it's defamatory? I'm suggesting that you have a vested interest in keeping certain narratives alive, Meghan shot back. I'm suggesting that controversy sells, and you need people like me to be controversial to keep your ratings up. But here's the thing, Andy. I'm not playing that game anymore. Then why did you come on this show? Andy demanded. His famous charm completely evaporated now. If you think I'm so terrible, if you think this platform is so corrupt, why are you here? Meghan smiled, and it was the first genuine smile she'd shown all evening, though it was sharp enough to cut glass. Because I wanted to look you in the eye when I told you exactly what I think of you in this circus you call a show. The audience gasped again, but this time there were murmurs of excitement. They were witnessing something unprecedented, a complete breakdown of the usual celebrity interview format. Andy ran his hands through his hair, clearly struggling to regain control of the situation. Look, Meghan, I think we both got a little heated here. Maybe we should take a breath and ... No, Meghan cut him off sharply. We're not taking a breath. We're not going to commercial. We're going to finish this conversation right here, right now. Because I have some things to say that your audience deserves to hear. Andy looked toward the control room, clearly hoping for some kind of intervention, but the cameras kept rolling. His producers knew ratings gold when they saw it, even if it meant their host was being eviscerated on live television. Fine, Andy said, sitting back down and trying to project an air of calm control. Say whatever you need to say. Meghan remained standing, using her position to maintain the psychological advantage she'd gained. What I need to say is that this entire industry is built on tearing people down. It's built on creating drama where none exists, on twisting people's words, on exploiting their vulnerabilities for profit. And shows like this, Andy, are the worst offenders because they pretend to be friendly while they're stabbing you in the back? That's your opinion, Andy replied, but his voice was defensive now. Plenty of people have had great experiences on this show. Plenty of people have been too scared to speak up, Meghan countered, because they know what happens when you cross Andy Cohen. They know how the machine works, how the stories get planted, how the rumors start spreading. It's a protection racket disguised as entertainment. Andy's jaw was clenched so tight, it looked like it might shatter. You're making some very serious accusations without any proof. Am I? Meghan reached into her purse and pulled out her phone. Because I have text messages from your producers, Andy. I have emails. I have a very clear paper trail showing exactly what kind of interview this was supposed to be and what would happen if I didn't cooperate. The color drained from Andy's face completely. Around the studio, crew members were looking at each other with wide eyes, clearly realizing they were witnessing something that would be talked about for years to come. I don't know what you think you have, Andy said quietly, but I can assure you that any communication from my team was standard booking procedure. Standard procedure includes threatening to blacklist someone from other networks if they don't. Answer your questions the way you want, Meghan asked, holding up her phone. Because that's exactly what your head producer told my representative. The silence that followed was deafening. Andy opened his mouth to speak, then closed it again, clearly calculating his options. The smooth-talking host who had built his career on quick wit and sharper observations was suddenly speechless. Meghan took advantage of the silence to continue her assault. The truth is, Andy, you've gotten so comfortable being the one asking the questions that you forgot what it feels like to be on the other side. You forgot that some of us actually fight back. Andy's hands were visibly shaking as he reached for his water glass, taking a long sip while his mind raced for damage control. But Meghan wasn't finished, not even close. You want to know what really bothers me about people like you, Andy? She continued, her voice now carrying the authority of someone who had found their footing and refused to be moved. It's not just that you tear people down for entertainment, it's that you do it while pretending to be their friend. You smile, you laugh, you make them feel comfortable, and then you go for the throat when they least expect it. That's not what I do, Andy protested weakly, but even he seemed to know how hollow the words sounded. Isn't it? Meghan tilted, her head studying him like a scientist examining a particularly unpleasant specimen. Let's talk about some of your other guests, shall we? Let's talk about the women who came on this show thinking they were going to have a fun conversation and left feeling humiliated and exposed. Let's talk about the marriages you've helped destroy with your gotcha questions and your need to create controversy where none existed. The cameras were capturing every moment of Andy's discomfort, every bead of sweat that appeared on his forehead, every nervous gesture. His usual confidence had evaporated completely, replaced by something that looked disturbingly like panic. "I think we should wrap this up," Andy said, reaching toward his desk where the show notes lay scattered. "I think this has gone far enough." "Has it?" Meghan's voice was ice cold now. "Because I don't think it has. I think we're just getting started." "You wanted to talk about my truth, Andy? Let's talk about yours. Let's talk about how you've built your career on the backs of women, exploiting their pain and their struggles for your own gain." Andy stood up abruptly, his chair rolling back and hitting the wall behind him with a loud crash that made several audience members jump. "That's enough," he said, his voice rising for the first time. "I've given you plenty of opportunity, too. Say your piece, but I won't sit here and let you assassinate my character on my own show." "Your character? Andy, you assassinated your own character years ago. I'm just pointing it out to everyone who's been too polite to say it out loud." The two of them stood facing each other across the desk, the studio lights creating an almost gladiatorial atmosphere. The audience was completely silent, afraid that even breathing too loudly might break the spell of what they were witnessing. "You know what I think?" Andy said, his voice dripping with venom now that his carefully constructed facade had completely crumbled. "I think you came on this show looking for a fight because you need the attention. Your podcast numbers are down, your Netflix deal is in trouble, and you desperately need something to get people talking about you again." It was a low blow, and Andy knew it, but he was fighting for his professional life now. Meghan's expression didn't change, but her eyes seemed to grow even colder. "Is that really the best you can do?" she asked quietly. "After everything we've just discussed, after I've exposed exactly how this industry really works. You're still trying to make this about my career instead of your own ethical failures?" "Ethical failures," Andy sputtered. "I'm a television host, not a priest. I ask tough questions. That's my job." "No, Andy, your job is supposed to be entertaining your audience, not destroying people for sport." "But you've confused the two, haven't? You've convinced yourself that cruelty is entertainment, that humiliation is humor. And the saddest part is, you've convinced a lot of other people to." Andy looked toward the control room again, more desperately this time. He could see his producers frantically gesturing, clearly trying to figure out how to end this disaster without making it worse. "I think we need to go to commercial," Andy announced, but Meghan shook her head. "Oh no. We're not going anywhere. We're going to finish this conversation because your audience deserves to know who they're really watching. They deserve to know that this show isn't what it